Today, a new alliance met in West Asia, the I2U2 grouping or the West Asian Quad. These are the members of the West Asian Quad: India, the US, Israel and the UAE. The first Quad focuses on the Indo-Pacific. This one focuses on West Asia. Today was the first leader summit of this bloc. It brought together the Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, US President Joe Biden and the UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. The focus of this summit was joint initiatives, especially in 6 areas: water, energy, transportation, space, health and food security. This meeting focused on the global food security crisis, one triggered by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The UAE will invest $2 billion to develop integrated food parks across India. This will help bolster production, given India is a major food producer.
Food insecurity. The UAE's investment to develop integrated agricultural parks across India, with the support of the American and Israeli private sector experts, has the potential to sustainably increase India's food yields in the region threefold in just 5 years. India is a major food producer in the world. Think of the beneficial impacts this will have on India's farmers and the people suffering from hunger and malnutrition in the region.
New Delhi will provide appropriate land and facilitate farmers' integration into the food parks. The grouping also focused on clean energy during the meeting. The I2U2 grouping will build a hybrid renewable energy project in Gujarat. This could feed into India's efforts to reach net zero emissions by 2070.
I2U2 ने एक सकारात्मक एजेंडा स्थापित कर लिया है। हमने कई क्षेत्रों में जॉइंट प्रोजेक्ट्स की पहचान की है और उनमें आगे बढ़ने का रोड मैप भी बनाया है। I2U2 फ्रेमवर्क के तहत हम जल, ऊर्जा, परिवहन, स्पेस, स्वास्थ्य और खाद्य सुरक्षा के 6 महत्वपूर्ण क्षेत्रों में जॉइंट इन्वेस्टमेंट बढ़ाने के लिए सहमत हुए हैं।
For the longest time, America was the biggest superpower in West Asia, but that has changed recently. Washington has shifted its focus to the Indo-Pacific, leaving behind a power vacuum in the region. This is where China came in. China ended up buying West Asia's oil. 40% of China's crude imports are from West Asia. Beijing also signed a series of agreements with West Asian countries, projects with Saudi Arabia, Israel, Kuwait and Bahrain. All of these are traditional US allies. So this got Washington worried. And this is where the I2U2 comes in. For the United States, it's all about extending its influence in the region. For Israel, it is about more and more Arab recognition. For the UAE, it's about money and investments. So where does India fit in? Firstly, all of these 3 countries are close Indian partners. Secondly, India has always supported the Abraham Accords. Thirdly, this West Asian Quad could be India's window to the region. The possibilities are endless: joint initiatives, investments, tourism, people-to-people exchanges. The I2U2 came together riding the momentum of the Abraham Accords. For New Delhi, this is important. It's a crucial foothold in an important region, complementing its desire to take on a larger global role. Joining us for more on this is Ambassador Arun Singh. He is the former Indian ambassador to Israel. He is also the former Indian ambassador to the United States. Ambassador, good to have you with us. What, according to you, have been the key takeaways from today's summit of the I2U2 grouping or the West Asian Quad? What stood out for you?
I think several things. One, that they came out with very concrete outcomes, because when this arrangement was set up in October last year, people asked the question as to what they would do together. What is the advantage they bring for each other? What is the advantage they bring to the region? And right in the beginning, it was signaled that they would focus on specific projects, and you've listed several of the areas that they were going to focus on. So I welcome the fact that in this first meeting at the summit level, they were able to announce specific projects. Now, from India's point of view, the projects that have been identified are of benefit to India. If you're looking at investment of $2 billion in integrated food parks in India, it will enhance food production, productivity in India. It will be to the benefit of the consumer, to the benefit of the farmer, and it will contribute to food security in South Asia and to also to the Gulf region. So that's a major thing. And again, if you're looking at the hybrid energy, renewable energy project that they've spoken about, again, with all the focus on climate change, sustainable development, it is a very significant outcome. So I think that's the first thing that struck me. The second, that for a long time, people had suggested that India remained focused just on South Asia, was not able to look beyond South Asia. And then in India, there was a signal that no, our interests go beyond South Asia to our extended neighborhood. And initially, there was some talk of Think East, then Act East. Then people spoke of Think West, because India has significant interest in the Gulf region. We have more than 8 million people living and working in the Gulf, repatriating every year more than $50 billion in terms of remittances, which are very important for India, where we have a trade deficit of more than $150 billion. A large part of our energy imports come from the Gulf region. So the region is extremely important for India. Now, over the last some years, India has built a very important partnership with the United Arab Emirates. And in terms of overall trade figures, UAE is among the leading countries with which we have a significant trade figure. Israel is again a very important partner for India, including in defense. Over the years, we have sourced some critical defense supplies from Israel. It has been an important partner in agriculture. They have more than 30 demonstration projects in India related to agriculture. They've also participated in dairy. In terms of technology, the largest number of startups in the world are in the United States. The second largest number of startups in the world are in Israel, which is a country of just 7 million people. And India is also putting a lot of emphasis on energizing the startup ecosystem. So from that perspective, again, it becomes a very important relationship. And as far as the India-US relationship is concerned, it's our largest trading partner. The trade is of the order of $160 billion. It has increased 7 times in the last 20 years. US is also our largest partner in terms of bilateral investment flows, in terms of technology partnerships. And we have 4 million people of Indian origin living in the US. And at key positions today, the Vice President of US is a person of Indian origin. A recently appointed cabinet level position who heads science and technology policy in the White House is also a person of Indian origin. So there are these very deep linkages. So I think through this arrangement, one signal is that each of the countries concerned value the relationship with the other partners. They want to work together to make a positive contribution to other countries in the region. And of course, that enhances our interests in this region. So I think these were several of the takeaways as far as I could see.
Right. As you said, this also points towards India's growing engagement with the West Asian countries, and overall how you are assessing the significance of India's role in the region going the way forward.
So I think going the way forward, this plurilateral arrangement should be able to also strengthen our various bilateral engagements with UAE, with Israel, and of course the United States. And I think another signal that comes out from here is that the United States values its relationship with India. Because when you look at, you refer to the Quad arrangement that is there in the Indo-Pacific, where it is the United States, Australia, Japan, and India. And clearly the US sees India as a very important partner in that context. Now, not just in the region east of India, but also in the region west of India. The US is signaling that it sees India as a very important partner. Because again, many analysts in India had pointed out that when the US is talking of the Indo-Pacific, extending from the west coast of India to the west coast of the United States, what about the Indian Ocean region? the area west of the western coast of India. And I think this is clearly a signal from the US that it is mindful of Indian interest, not just east of the Indian seaboard, but also on the west. So I think together, each of the countries will try to make an effort to strengthen not just the bilateral partnership, but what is the additional contribution they can make to other countries in the region. And I think from Israel's perspective, the advantage would be that they would like to get more and more integrated with the countries in the region. So far, Israel has been isolated from the Gulf. And I remember when I was serving there as ambassador, they used to say that when they look east, the first friendly country they see is India. But in 2020, we had the Abraham Accords where Israel, the country, UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco established diplomatic relations with Israel. Before that, it was only Egypt and Jordan. So I think Israel would like to see if through this arrangement, they can become more acceptable and more integrated with other countries in the region. And from their perspective, that would contribute to peace and stability. And again, from the US perspective, as you mentioned earlier, the US would like to see if it can stabilize the situation in West Asia, put more emphasis in responding to what they see as the challenge from China. And repeatedly that they have said that even in the current context, when they are occupied a bit or preoccupied a bit because of the challenge they see for themselves from Russia and its actions in Europe, they still see China as their primary challenge and security and economic challenge, because some of the economic and technology practices of China, theft of intellectual property, not following international norms, are what they have assessed as being a more serious long-term challenge to themselves. So as they deal with that challenge, I think if they can build partnerships elsewhere in the world so that their interests from their point of view are also protected while other countries are pursuing their interests, that certainly works from their point of view.
Ambassador Singh, thank you very much for joining us on the broadcast and sharing those perspectives.
Thank you.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.